Hey guys, Taylor here with Music Match here, coming to you with a lesson on the 4 chords that you need to know to be able to play thousands of popular songs on guitar. So if you're just starting out on your guitar journey, you are definitely in the right place. But if you've also been playing guitar for a little while and maybe you feel like you've kind of hit that plateau or have some trouble learning full songs, this will definitely help you as well, because not only are we going to cover how to play those 4 chords, but we're also going to talk about some really important practice tips like how to practice these chord transitions correctly so that you develop your muscle memory and can start switching between those chords quickly and smoothly. And also we're going to talk about how to change keys with these same 4 chord shapes so that you can play in basically any key and learn even more songs. So thanks again so much for being here. Let's waste no time. Let's go ahead and dive right in and start learning those chords. And by the time you know these, along with the practice tips that we're going to talk about, you're going to be able to literally play thousands of popular songs. Let's do it. Alright guys, let's go ahead and learn those 4 chords that you need to know to play literally thousands of popular songs on the guitar. And if you have been playing guitar a little bit, you might know these chords already. If you're just starting out on your guitar journey, they might be brand new. But whether you know them or not, go ahead and stick around because I'm going to give you some tips on how to play these, how to get good at them, how to practice them, and how to actually change keys with them as well, so that you can open up your ability to play a ton of songs and have a really cool song repertoire right out of the gate. So let's go ahead and start by learning the first of those 4 chords, which is just going to be a G major. So I'm going to go ahead and put the chord charts on screen for you so that you can see those, and then I'll go ahead and just explain it note by note as well. So with our G major chord, we're going to need our second finger on the 3rd fret of the low E string, our index finger on the 2nd fret of the A string. We're going to leave our D string open. Open just means you don't have to hold anything down. No fingers at all, nice and easy. We're going to leave our G string open as well. We're going to have our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B string. And we're going to have our pinky on the 3rd fret of the high E string. Now some of you who have been playing a little bit maybe learned G a little bit different. You might have learned it like this, where you have kind of one less finger in there, or maybe just a different kind of organization of your fingers like this. However you learned it, if you already learned that one, is fine. They're all correct. I do prefer this G because this G has these 2 bottom fingers here, and a lot of other chords also share those bottom fingers. So when you play G this way, you kind of are able to easily play some of those other chords as well, but we'll save that for maybe a different video. Let's go ahead and keep going for now and learn some of these other chords. But before we jump into that second chord, let me just give you a couple tips on playing this. So if you're playing this chord and you come across some notes that kind of sound like this, let me show you how to fix that. So basically the easiest fix is usually your thumb position. So what you want to do is have that thumb kind of nice and low on the back of the neck. I would recommend keeping it right around the 2nd fret of the guitar. So don't let it pop up too much. You will see my thumb pop up and come over the neck a little bit. That's because I've been playing for a little while now. I can kind of use that thumb up there in certain cases. But for now, if you're still kind of new in your guitar journey, I want you to keep that thumb nice and low on the back. And again, right around the 2nd fret. And what that'll do is it'll kind of push your hand out a little bit more. And it'll really kind of get you on your fingertips over here. So the more you can really get on your fingertips with these chords, the better those notes are going to sound. And you also want to be keeping those fingers as close as possible to the frets. So that's pretty much a good rule of thumb for guitar in general. We want to be as close to the fret as possible, but not on top. All right, so thumb position, keep that low, keep it right around the 2nd fret, keep those fingers curved and on their fingertips. And a good little way to kind of test those notes is just to pick through the strings individually and see if you can get them all ringing. And another thing you might want to keep in mind is If you are new with your guitar, it's going to feel like you have to really push those strings down and put a lot of pressure on, and that is okay. So go ahead and put that pressure on for now. I promise it won't always feel like that. It'll get a lot easier. But let's go ahead and move on to our second chord. So our second chord that we really need to know to play thousands of songs is our D major chord. And I'm going to put the chord chart up on the screen here, and you can see that we have two X's over the E string and the A string. So that means we're not going to play those at all. We're going to start this chord with an open D string, so that means no fingers again, don't have to do anything with the D string. And we've got our index finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, our ring finger on the 3rd fret of B, and our 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the high E string. So again, if you have a little trouble getting any of those notes to ring, check that thumb position, bring that down, get those fingers on their fingertips. You might even want to keep your elbow a little closer, that might help as well, a little closer to your body. And keep those fingers nice and close to the frets. And you can also pluck through those individually to make sure they're ringing out. Next one is an easier one, is E minor. So we can see in our chord chart we have no X's, that means we're going to strum all 6 strings. Our low E string is going to be open, meaning no fingers. The A string is going to be 2nd fret with our 2nd finger. D string is going to be 2nd fret with our ring finger. We got an open G string, open B, and open high E. Remember some of those basics, get that thumb in the right place, use those fingertips, keep those fingers close to the frets. Now in this case we have 2 fingers like right on the same fret there, right on the 2nd fret. It's okay if one's a little further than the other. You don't have to kind of overdo it and try and do something weird to get both of those fingers close. Just get them as close as possible. So it's okay if one's a little further, that's fine. Last but not least, we got our C chord. With the chord chart there that you see on your screen, the C chord is going to have an X over the low E string, so we're not going to play that. I'm going to start with our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, 2nd finger, 2nd fret of D, open G, index finger, 1st fret of the B string, and then an open high E, and then just go through that little checklist again, put that thumb down, curve those fingers onto those fingertips, get those fingers nice and close to the frets, and then maybe pluck through those and see if you can get them all ringing out. So congratulations, you just learned the 4 chords that you need to play thousands of popular songs. Now here's the thing, right? It's one thing to just learn where to put your fingers to play those chords. It's another thing to be able to transition between them smoothly. So let me give you a couple tips on how to do that. With my guitar students, I tell them that developing muscle memory is the #1 priority. Muscle memory is what allows us to kind of train our brain to make these motions feel automatic and effortless. And muscle memory is an ability that everyone has. So if you're a human being with a brain and fingers, you can absolutely develop muscle memory. So that's the good news. The bad news is that sometimes it doesn't develop unless you practice correctly. And that's where a lot of people kind of get stuck in this little loop where they pick up their guitar to practice, but ultimately they don't practice the right way, and then they feel like they're not getting any better. So let me show you guys how to practice the right way with these chords so you can actually develop that muscle memory and get better. So I'm going to put on screen a free app called Pro Metronome, and what a metronome does is it helps you keep a beat, helps you play at a certain tempo, and that is the best thing you can possibly do for developing your muscle memory. Okay, so I have my metronome ready to go here. I have it set to 60 beats per minute, and I'm going to do 1 strum per chord right on beat 1 of the metronome. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that is a great way to start. Now you can also add in more strums if that feels too easy for you. You can do up to 4 strums per chord with that metronome. But ultimately you want to be playing with a tempo and then gradually increasing that tempo. And that's how you're going to start to develop that muscle memory so that these chord changes start to basically happen automatically. Now, if you want a step-by-step guide for developing your muscle memory, definitely check out the links in the description below. I have a program called Guitar Building Blocks that's going to help you develop your muscle memory in a very fast, straightforward, step-by-step process. But that is certainly a great way for you to get started in getting that muscle memory for those chord changes. So the second little piece of advice that I'd like to give you for these 4 chords is helping you understand how to change the key. So these chords you can use to play thousands of songs like we've said, but what if the song you want to learn isn't in this key? So right now we're playing in the key of G. So basically that first chord that we play is a G chord, and that essentially puts us in the key of G. I won't go into too much depth on the music theory right now, maybe save that for another day. But basically we'll be playing in the key of G when we play these 4 chords. So what happens if you have a song that is not in the key of G and you want to learn that one with these chords? Well, you just need this little handy tool right here called a capo. So you can grab these on Amazon or pretty much anywhere else, any other kind of guitar store, and they are super, super handy, and they allow you to change the key really, really easily. So what I've done is I've just put my capo on the 1st fret here, and what I'm going to do now is basically treat this capo as if it was the end of the guitar. So I'm going to treat it as if it was this white thing here, which is called the nut. So I'm going to treat it as if it's the end of the guitar now, and that's going to allow us to play these same chords, but now they're going to sound a little bit different. They're going to be a different key. So when we played that initial G chord without the capo, our starting note here on the low string was on the 3rd fret, right? So now when I put the capo on, all I have to do is just make sure I'm starting on the 3rd fret away from the capo. So if the capo's on the 1st fret, the 3rd fret away from the capo is the 4th fret. So I can go ahead and start my G chord now on what is actually the 4th fret of the guitar, but the 3rd fret away from the capo. And now I'm in a different key. And you could do this with any fret. So I could scoot this up to the 3rd fret if I wanted to. I'm going to start on the 3rd fret away from the capo. So if capo's on 3, the 3rd fret away is the 6th fret. Now I can play all those chords the same way. We can hear the sound is different, right? Because we're in a different key now. Alright, so now the question is, and again you can do this anywhere, you can move this to the 5th fret. You can play on the 5th fret, the 3rd fret away from the capo when it's on the 5th fret, which would put me on the 8th fret of the guitar. Alright, so this capo will allow you to change keys. You can put it on any fret, and you just have to start the same way you started your original chord, on 3 frets away, right? So we started our original chord 3 frets away from the nut of the guitar, the end of the guitar. Now we just start 3 frets away from the capo, wherever we put that. Alright, last little piece of advice. How do you know what key you're in once you put the capo on? So if I'm up here, if my capo's on the 5th fret, and I'm starting my G chord over here on the 8th fret, the 3rd fret away from the capo, I'm no longer actually playing a G chord. Putting the capo on is going to change the chord that I'm actually playing, even though I'm still playing a G shape, right? So that's a really important distinction in terms of the terminology. The shape of my fingers is in a G chord, just like we learned up here. But since the capo's on, it's actually not a G chord that we're hearing. It's a different chord, even though my fingers are still in the same shape. So how do you know what chord you're actually hearing when you have the capo on? All you have to do is identify whatever that lowest note is of your G chord. So if you're playing your G chord, you're 3 frets away from your capo. All you would have to do is identify whatever that lowest note is, and that tells you what key you're playing in. So in this case, I would have to identify what is the 8th fret of the E string. I'd have to identify that note. If you need help identifying those notes, check out the other video that I'll link in the description that'll help you learn all the notes of the fretboard in less than 5 minutes. But to just kind of jump to the answer, the note here on the 8th fret of the E string is a C note. So if I'm playing this chord, that G-shaped chord, with my capo on 5, I'm actually playing a C chord, because that note is a C note. So whatever that note is, that's what key you're in, that's what chord you're starting on. And we can just do a little quick sound example, right? There's that, and then if I go play a regular C chord, it should sound pretty similar. Pretty cool, right? So there you have it, guys. There's 4 chords that you need to play thousands of songs, along with some tips on how to practice them and how to change the key. Well, there you have it, guys. Those are the 4 essential chords you need to know to play literally thousands of popular songs on the guitar. Not only did we learn what the chords are called, where to put our fingers, and all that good stuff, but we also learned some really important practice tips like how to play along with a metronome so that you develop your muscle memory so you can start making smooth and effortless chord changes. And we also talked about how to use a capo to change the key of the chords so that you can play in virtually any key with just those same 4 chord shapes. So if you'd like additional help developing your muscle memory or learning essential techniques on the guitar, check out the links in the description below, and check out my course called Guitar Building Blocks, where I help you learn the 7 essential techniques of playing guitar, all by utilizing the power of muscle memory. Also in the description, guys, you'll find some song suggestions that you can learn with the chords that we covered today. So thanks so much for checking out this video, and I will see you in the next one.